Welcome to episode 212 of the eCommerce One podcast. I'm your host, Richard Hill, and this week I'm joined by Emilia Swiecicka, Strategic Partnership Manager at Intuit Mailchimp. Now, in this episode, Emilia shares a journey from working with global e-commerce brands and agencies to helping businesses grow through powerful email, SMS, and CRM strategies at Mailchimp. We talk about how brands can unlock the full potential of email and why many still don't. It baffles me. The shift in consumer behavior and what it means for attention marketing, how Mailchimp is expanding the service not just to small businesses, but also fast-scaling brands and enterprise-level merchants, the power of partnerships and how agencies can do more by working smarter with the right toolset. We also get into how AI, of course, is changing the way marketers operate, what makes a great campaign, and why consistency still beats complexity when it comes to customer engagement. Emilia brings energy, insight, and a ton of hands-on experience in this conversation. So if you're looking to build stronger customer journeys and drive real growth, you're going to love this one. Let's get into it. Well, welcome to the podcast, Emilia.
Thank you so much for having me on. Super excited to be here.
No problem at all. Been looking forward to getting you on. We've been talking about it for a while. So here you are at eCom One HQ.
Yeah.
Before we get into all things email, CRM, AI, SMS, and lots of other cool stuff, I think it'd be great to tell the listeners how you got into the world of email marketing, e-commerce, and partnerships.
Absolutely. So I've been in e-commerce 8 years now. I actually started on the agency side. I'm Swedish originally, and I met a Swedish agency working when I was here for an internship. And I thought everything they did was so cool, and how it all works. I wanted to know more about it. So somehow managed to get them to hire me straight out of university.
That was you straight out of uni into partnerships? Straight
out of uni. I had a 6-month internship under my belt here in London. And then, straight into the world of e-commerce. And it really is a crash course. You learn so much so quickly, and you really get to see, if I was on the marketing side, and I think you really get to see every piece of the puzzle and how it all works. And you start interacting with all these tech vendors and platforms, and the world of e-commerce was just so inspiring. So a few years on, I then moved to the tech side. I've been in payments, and since about 1.5 years, I've been at Intuit Mailchimp and the wonderful world of email.
So I think when we met, it was at one of the big platforms conferences, I think, maybe 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. And we talk a lot about going to events and, representing your brand, to our listeners' brand at different events. But obviously we wouldn't have met if we'd both not gone to that event on that day. And obviously since then we've done quite a few different events and different partnerships. And obviously we're doing some very exciting stuff with you now with Mailchimp. So I think historically, Mailchimp, going back, obviously, when I had my stores, sort of 15 years ago and more than that, and over the many years ago, Mailchimp was really known as more for small businesses, I think would be fair to say, small businesses, small list, a few thousands and, or maybe tens of thousands. But obviously now, it got the power of Intuit behind the brand. What's been going on behind the scenes, and why is it sort of more of a fit for the mid-market and for the e-commerce market?
Absolutely. So Mailchimp is still very much an SMB brand, and we still champion small businesses and really making it easy for someone to start their business on the platform, but also then continue on. And since Intuit bought Mailchimp back in 2021 now, there's been a ton of work on the sidelines and behind the scenes to really make the platform shine on things like reporting and automations, and really making sure that we can now serve a customer for a lot longer in their journey. But this investment has also gone into the team. We're now a localized team and have people based in the UK and in parts of Europe and Australia, and really building out a support system that also caters to businesses big and small. So there's been a huge amount of growth.
So you do your big conference, I think, the last couple of years, haven't you? Some of the team, Karianne, who looks behind the scenes on the podcast, was obviously raving about, I think, last year before. No, you just had one recently?
We had one last year, and it's coming up again now in June. It's going to be a really great day.
Yeah. I'll even squeeze myself down to London for that one.
I think you should. I've got speakers like Tom Goodwin. This is becoming a bit of a plug now, but Tom Goodwin speaking. We've got Fern Cotton and Jamie Lang.
Yeah.
Aisling B's hosting the whole day, and it's all about kind of how to make your business flourish and really targeted to marketeers.
Well, we'd love to get Jamie on the show, actually. So we might have
There
to
you
pop down
go.
and say hello.
Meet and greet.
So obviously, like we said, many years ago, small business is the focus, and still very much that is a big market. But now, Ecom at One podcast, we're here to talk about e-commerce. What's the sort of, has there been any sort of big shifts in the e-commerce sort of market with email that you've sort of seen in the last few months or last year?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things, and it's constantly an ever-changing space, right? I think email's a constant that's been around for a long time, but it's also an area that sees so much development constantly. So obviously we can't not go. I think we're 5 minutes in, and I'm going to say AI for the first time, AI. But it's probably going to come up a few more times. I think in terms of kind of developing our platform, we focus so much on making things easier for the user. So whether that's enhanced reporting so that you don't have to go to a million different places, more automations that you can build on, and kind of also let AI build for you so that you can very easily continue that personal journey that you're creating for your consumers. But AI is really the theme of it all.
Well, yeah. I thought we are going to come back to AI.
Yeah.
Because I think there's still the cynics that are listening in that, all our clients, they get so many emails. Emails, it's not all that. I mean, a ridiculous sentence to say on this podcast, but, I think, there's a lot of different options out there, a lot of different platforms and so forth. It just staggers me how many stores are still not really embracing. What would you say to those guys that are still like, it's not really a profitable channel for us, it's saturated, our clients are getting hundreds of emails a day. What would you say to those guys that are still a bit maybe stuck in 2019?
Yeah, and look, people love saying that email's dead, email has no value, email's overrated, all these things, but it's still the most profitable channel out there. And when you look at the ROI numbers, in terms of metrics, you see people saying all kinds of numbers, but we like to use the $42 ROI per dollar spent. We can convert that to pounds as well, of course, or Swedish crowns, or whatever currency we're working with here. We're international. But as a channel, it still touches every part of the customer journey. So whether you're acquiring new customers, whether you're looking to convert someone that's just browsing on the site, or whether you want to win someone back or create loyalty in your customer base and build that community, email touches every part of that journey, which is why I think it's so exciting and a channel you cannot miss.
Yeah, I think you summed it up very well. I think gone are the days where it's just, okay, we've got our, somebody didn't check out, so we've sent a quick reminder. And that's like the base, isn't it? That's the starting point. Obviously, there's so much more you can do, and you touched on that loyalty, that customer lifetime, and I think that's the difference when we're talking to the majority of our listeners that are multi-7-figure turnover, and it can be the difference between success and failure, that extra % of returning visitors, cost of acquisition. We won't talk about that too much. We've covered that in a lot of episodes, but obviously it's getting a little bit more challenging unless you're creative with the way that you're maybe doing your ads, or you're very creative with your feed, with using different feed technology. But ultimately, if you've got a series of different flows and more focus on retention, lifetime value, you're obviously going to see a lot bigger return.
100%.
So what are you seeing with sort of bigger merchants, where they're obviously, in theory, they should be trying to drive profitability and profit? Is there anything around profitability that you're seeing with some of the bigger merchants that you could sort of recommend to our listeners?
Now, you might be looking for an SEO boost, a down-to-earth digital PR campaign to share your story, or maybe just some straightforward technical help to amp up your performance. Now, that's where Ecom Now comes in. A partner that's all about making things easier for your online store. Our services cover everything from creating professional content for your e-commerce categories to refining your product descriptions. Now, whether you're just starting out or have been in it for a while, we're here to deliver real, impactful results that add to your bottom line without unnecessary commitments. You can order one-off or multiple projects with a quick turnaround. Simply choose what you need.
I think it's not going to be an original answer. I think a merchant any size really needs to have full control over their data. And so data comes back to everything that you do, and whether you're A/B testing, whether you're trying a fancy new tool, whether if you're controlling your data and you know how to utilize it in a good way, that's how you're really gonna create that ROI and increase your profitability. So if you're running a campaign, if you're not looking at what went well and why that went well, there's no point in planning the next one. Constantly learning and kind of being in control of all the data points and how you get to know your customers and what you ask your customers for, and then what you use that data for it.
Any sort of examples of sort of the actual data? So I'm just thinking, a store that's listing right now, they might be doing, £5 or £6 million a year, doing, 500 grand a month. And they're sending, they maybe got all their, quite a lot of the base flows set up. And maybe got some more fancier retention flows set up. What sort of data should they be specifically looking at if they're trying to improve profitability, retention, customer lifetime?
Absolutely. So say they've got a couple of stores, asking their customers where they're based so that they can send the customer something personalized to those particular stores, or when you're looking at stock levels, what's available in that particular store that you want to do an extra push on, or all those things. So it can be quite small and quite.
So tying stock levels into the emails.
Tying stock levels into emails is another great data point.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have to be rocket science. I think people think they need to fill in this huge form when they're coming to the website. But we haven't got all this data. Let's make sure that we ask people what their dog's name is, even though we sell cat food. But really making sure that you make it relevant. And I think that comes back to just making it bite-sized and kind of starting small, and also build from there. So building trust with your customer takes time.
Yeah.
Same with collecting data. They're not going to give you all that data straight away. So start small, show your customers that you're using it in a sensible and trustworthy way, and then build on that as well.
So brand story, and bringing brand story into the copy, into the emails. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's so important when you're building your list, and when you're wanting to kind of use that list and build automations and kind of start building that relationship with your customers. You've got to show the value. Yeah. It's not just about having this huge database of customers that you can generate more sales from. What's in it for them? And I think creating community and kind of showing value through other things than just discounts and what's new in stock. They're still really important emails and they serve a purpose, but I think you can do so much more when you're building community and retention and really having people create a relationship with your brand. That's also what's ultimately going to drive that loyalty.
I think when I'm looking to buy something from a merchant, one of the first things I'll do, if it's something a bit quirky, I'll look at the About Us page. I'll have a look. Oh, look, they started this business 7-8 years ago, and they've done this. They moved from there. Oh, they did a few orders, and they worked out their garage, and now they've got this warehouse, and then they moved to them. Got about 50 of them now. They're doing really well, and they really care. I look at their socials, and there's lots of good reviews, and the reviews can be brought in, obviously. And then there's the UGC maybe from happy customers. Great, but then you start seeing a lot of that stuff in their emails, the different types of content, the different types of creative. It's just a lot nicer than just buy this all the time. And
it has to be consistent, right? So if you're this really conscious brand that you're really selling a vision here, you're really selling a way of life, your emails, your social media posts, everything has to be consistent to that for it to be authentic and believable, right? I think if you get a really cold transactional email after having bought this vase or something that you've spent a long time thinking about, and that you really think, oh, this is going to fit into my really Scandi home, and I'm really building this lifestyle around this. You want the experience to really match it all the way to delivery until you place that vase in your living room.
So what's the last thing you bought from an email?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it was something food shop. I think it was probably my big brand food shop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just reminder, would you £5 off sort of thing?
Absolutely, it probably was. There's a wine offer on or something.
Too right. So obviously you're dealing with and working with a lot of different partners who've got a lot of different clients. You sort of got access to a lot of data, a lot of different clients that are doing different things. what are some tactics that you're seeing are working well now that maybe are lesser known? I think, we've talked about, welcome emails a little bit. Well, not really, but obviously to do them, and we've touched on some, some keywords of, lifetime value, but specifics of what are some very smart merchants maybe doing that are lesser known tactics out there that we could share, you could share with our listeners.
Yeah. And for the second time, I'm going to mention AI here. I think we've moved past the point of it just being this gimmicky content creation tool. I think we've moved past the point of people saying, oh, it's coming for all the jobs. I think now we're really seeing the kind of time-saving element and optimization and really making sure to utilize it to build the strength and kind of create efficiencies in the work. So I think we're seeing a lot of people that really embrace it, save that time so that they can spend time building the fun things or the things that are really going to develop the brand further.
So obviously you've got AI functionality in the platform. What sort of things can you do with Mailchimp with AI then?
It goes through so many different, I think it's in more than 20 of the different features that we do. So everything from send time optimization to content creation to tips and tricks of how did this subject line read? Is it very readable? Is it skimmable? The email, should it be longer, shorter? It goes into the A/B testing. It goes into pretty much.
So you see every area, really,
every piece of the platform, which is really cool, and it's learning so much every day. I think something like 50 billion machine learnings across Intuit that all power the platform.
I think there's just no excuses anymore, is there, for merchants? Because maybe, I'm just not sure what we're going to send today, or I just can't think of the subject line, or I'm not sure what we're going to, hang on a minute, stop with the excuses. It's like, come on, it's almost paint by numbers now.
Yeah, exactly. And whether it just serves as inspiration or whether it's actually powering and kind of building the next steps in your automated journey, you can decide on what level of control you want to have, of course. But I think having that mindset and kind of letting it be part of your day-to-day is the real shift that we're seeing.
So if we were to drill into that just a little step further, let's say, we have some big brands that obsess over the podcast. They listen to every episode, so they tell me. I'm not sure if that's true, every single one, but maybe. But those bigger brands, the 10 to 30 million pound brand turnover brands, what are you seeing? Maybe they're doing anything slightly different, slightly a little bit more like a little bit more innovative. Obviously, they may be using AI, but then are they doing like a step further, or are they doing a bit more with their loyalty, a bit more with the customer value? Obviously, they've got maybe that 1, 2, 3 orders, but they're doing some really clever stuff to get that 4th, 5th, 10th order.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the really bigger brands, we're seeing them become a lot more intentional and around the testing that they do, for example. So whether you're driving 50% of the traffic to a pop-up form with an offer and the other 50% without one, for example, and really taking the learnings from that. I think what some of the bigger brands do really well is kind of implement that test and having an almost kind of experimental mindset to everything they do and to kind of developing their email marketing strategy. And that really shines through when you also get those different experiences and trying what's the look and feel of the pop-up form. It could be such a minuscule little change that could have several percentage points of difference in conversion.
Yeah, I think that's a very great answer, because I think people are quite often, when they're of a certain size, they're a bit afraid to test, to have and agree a budget to test. And that's where the magic can happen, because if all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this thing that we spent 5% of the budget on testing this thing is now the thing, it's now the area of the business where we're really focused on getting maybe obsessed about, the opt-in rate for another 0.5% on a massive, a million views on a site a week or whatever it may be. Obviously a massive change. You're getting that 8th, 9th order.
And everything can be optimized, right? I think people underestimate how much actually can be tested.
Yeah.
So for who is the pop-up form showing up, and how big is this discount, and in what color is this doing? I think there's so many things that you can test that can make such a big difference and obviously have a real impact on revenue.
So I think we've covered a lot of ground, but I always think, like, when it comes to literally getting the subscribers is quite often the issue. The pop-ups are coming up all over the joint if you're not careful. Any smart stuff with pop-up, well, I won't say pop-ups, any smart stuff with getting the subscribers at the front end that our listeners need to be thinking about?
I mean, you're definitely not leading me to the answer, but I will still talk about pop-ups, which I'm really excited about, to be fair, because we've launched some new functionality in this area. Our pop-up forms have gotten so much smarter. But the truth is, pop-up still reigns supreme. It's you're full control of that data, whether you're running ads on a different platform, whether you're driving people to your website through a competition, or it all kind of comes back to your pop-up being that ultimate driver of new list subscribers. And I think there's different ways of doing it. I think, as we mentioned before, don't do the long form with all the questions.
25.
So, yeah, no one's going to do that.
Yeah.
If it could be enough to ask for just email address, and then you can maybe do a stepped version so that you ask for things a little bit later on, or you do that further along in the journey to help someone make some decisions or convert. And you can do that in really fun ways as well. Quizzes, little questionnaire on to help them decide what kind of
Quizzes is a great one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you start gamifying it a little bit, and then you're getting directed to an area or a product set that you've given them.
Exactly.
You've got their details. You've got the details, whether it's, makeup, style, hair, all sorts of different industries really benefit from quizzes,
Exactly. And just make sure you follow through with that as well. So if you are doing a quiz and someone gets their results, make a copy of that welcome flow so that you know that these customers have made that choice, so that you're consistent then in what you're following up on. Yeah,
nothing worse than saying you're after trying to think, blonde dye, and you get sent the black dye advert or emails. Yeah, it's not going to work too well, is it?
Exactly. Staying consistent there.
Yeah. So subscribers, we talked on that and increasing that, but I think it's still in my mind. Like, there's obviously a lot of options out there. I'm not going to rattle through the different providers of email. And email has become, it's become a very big profit center in reality for a lot of merchants. We joked at the beginning, about people not doing what they should be doing. But I think most of our listeners are using email to a level, and to a deep level. But obviously, there's a lot of options with different platforms out there. We've maybe had a couple of them on the podcast over the years. But what would you say is Mailchimp's biggest differentiating factors? And why Mailchimp really?
Yeah. So why Mailchimp? So we there's a few things I like to bring up when I get asked this question. And we've been around for 2 decades now, and we've built a really strong platform that really focuses on deliverability. And the fact that we've been around for so long, the fact that we've built infrastructure to support this, so own servers, making it really easy for our customers to authenticate their domains and kind of do all that work in the background to really keep those deliverability numbers high. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't look at. We're so focused on sending out the emails and campaigns and kind of how many of those emails have been sent and to how many people. But I think that extra step is always looking at how many ended up in the inbox. So if you've spent money on your ESP platform and not looking at the ROI spend, then deliverability comes into that, of course, and making sure that that's a strong point. So
it's a big issue, isn't it, with deliverability? Obviously, absolutely key. And I think obviously tracking that, monitoring that, and Mailchimp, as you say, got that sort of pedigree history. It's been a big part of the platform for many, many years. And, great. So what's the next one, would you say, would be the sort of advantage of Mailchimp?
So the second thing I always talk about is the ease of use of the platform. So whether you are someone just starting out, or whether you're operating as quite a lean marketing team, or just have limited time, anyone can pick up the platform. And we offer a lot of tips and tricks within to help you get set up. It's also got so much depth to it now that if you're working with an agency, there's also so much you can do. So it really is easy to use, but
you got templates in there, haven't you, as well?
Templates are a huge piece of the ease of use point there. And because of our sheer scale and size, we're bringing so many features to market all the time. So that's definitely a few of the things. And then obviously affordability, we're super transparent on our pricing, and people find our platform really cost efficient. So
I think that's the thing I always remember, from doing this for a long time, is your pricing is exceptional. It was, and it still is. It still is. Obviously, we've done quite a few comparisons of different projects we've been looking at, and very, very, very competitive, which is fabulous. I think, one of the topics we talk about a lot on the podcast and we're obsessed about in our agency and our agency clients at Ecom One is profitability. That is really the driver of why we're all sat here to a degree, ultimately to build and help build profitable businesses, not just to sell stuff. And then potentially there's not a lot left at the end of the month, at the end of the year, and then we don't sell stuff for long. But I think it'd be good for you to maybe, if you possibly can step us through sort of how Mailchimp's been able to improve profitability with certain brands you've worked with. I don't know if you can mention brands. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. That's also fine. But it'd be nice if you could, to a degree.
I'll mention one today.
Yeah. But I think, it's just such a key driver. It's profitable, but it's profitability for all the people that listen, all the people in e-commerce. I think it's just so easy to sell a lot of stuff, but it's obviously building a successful, profitable business is the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And to make the example really relevant to what we're talking about today, I'll stay in the Shopify and kind of e-commerce field. So we've got this lovely, lovely brand called the Biker Company. They used to be part of a big franchise. They broke out to kind of build their own identity and build up their brand. And they did go through a few different ESP providers before landing on Mailchimp. And they wanted to achieve both kind of a high ROI on what they were spending, and they needed it to be a platform that was really easy to use, reporting to be really straightforward so that they could really see what was working and what wasn't. So when they implemented Mailchimp, they had quite a large customer list, large subscriber list, but it wasn't very engaged. So activation obviously came into this as one of the first points of action. And they've used functionality from our automations to the reports, to our pop-up forms, to really start getting those customers engaged again. And I think just from launching their pop-up, there was something like a 25% increase month on month on revenue from just being a little bit smarter about how they approach their email marketing strategy. And yeah, they've highlighted that they love the support and kind of they really make use of a lot of the tools and things that we give, and we share quite a lot of tips and tricks on how to optimize. So that's something they've really used and seen some amazing results from.
So they've used quite a lot of the different sort of tools, functionality. I think the activation piece where you've maybe got a list or a business that's not been doing much with their email for a while, but they've been building the list, but they've not really been using it, contacting the database smartly. So you've got to be careful, haven't you, with that activation of a cold list or reactivation of something, a group that's not had many touch points for a while.
For sure. You don't just want to blast the whole list or the weekly newsletter to the more we send, the more they'll engage. No, I think they did it in a really kind of measured way. They leaned on our team a fair bit. They used a lot of our resources, and I think they approached it in such a smart way. And I've seen something like they've had 50% open rates, their click-through rates in the 4%.
What are they selling?
It's clothing around kind of motorcycle gear, and they sell brands like Carhartt and it's a really nice website. I'd recommend.
Oh, lovely. I'll have a look afterwards.
Yeah. Good for any motorcycle fans out there.
So, SMS. What are you seeing with SMS at the moment? What are sort of successful merchants doing with SMS?
Yeah, I think the people that are really being successful with SMS are the people that are kind of weaving it into their existing email strategy. It's again not a kind of, we've got phone numbers, let's send everyone that we can an offer daily and nightly. And I think being really smart about it and kind of weaving it into an automation and kind of finding that combination of email and SMS is where it really gets exciting. And also using it for the right kind of messages. Is it a nice little reminder that your order is on the way? Is it a particular reminder about an offer that expires that day that that someone's been interested in and clicked on before? And kind of, again, really focusing on know your customer, don't blast.
Yeah. I think, again, it does surprise me still, the lack of SMS, the lack of companies that are sending SMS still. No matter what platform you're using, within reason, it probably does SMS, maybe, should do. And obviously, if you're just using email and not using SMS, which I think quite a few companies still are, you're pretty much 100% open rate, aren't you? 99 point whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's so high. And I think, I mean, if I look at my own text messages, I mainly get text messages from businesses these days. And
more wine.
Not my friend. Exactly. His summer now.
Yeah. So obviously you've got a bit of an inside track, to say the least. Obviously you've been with Mailchimp a while now. Obviously I've met your leadership team in London and so forth, and obviously you possibly know a few things maybe that you could share. You know, I'm always keen to get a feel for like the roadmap of the different partners that we work with and the different people we get on the podcast. Is there anything you could maybe share that's maybe not 100% common knowledge?
Yeah.
That our listeners can be excited for in the coming sort of 12 months?
There's some really big things brewing, and I won't keep it to kind of small. We do platform updates all the time. So the really big thing I'd like to share about or talk about is the huge vision for Intuit overall. So it's no secret that when Intuit bought Mailchimp, there was a bigger plan in place, and the real mission here is to support businesses in kind of every aspect of running and growing their business, and really simplifying for small to medium business owners. So we're very excited about the platform that we're building that's encompassing QuickBooks, Mailchimp, and everything to really help a business run and grow their operations and really be smart about what decisions they're making, and to really increase profitability and all the kind of day-to-day management of everything that is around their business.
Very exciting. More integration.
Exciting. It's we're becoming a platform business, which there definitely will be more shouting about very soon.
Oh, exciting! Watch this space.
Hey.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. I like to finish every episode with a book recommendation. Do you have a book to recommend to our listeners?
I do. And it's actually one that I read a couple of years ago. So I don't remember the specifics but it stays with me. And it's The Discomfort Zone by Farah Store. She's an editor-in-chief. She's been at loads of different magazines, Elle, Cosmopolitan, and she talks about kind of how important it is to step out of your comfort zone and go into situations where you're not going to be comfortable in order to find that personal and professional growth. And that's something I remember every time I'm going to say no or not do something because I don't dare to. So it's a book that stayed with me for a long time.
I love it. That is a good way to live your life, I think, because it's surprising what can happen when you go, I'll go to this event, I'll go on this podcast, I'll say yes to this, I'll go do this, and then it's a great way to live your life, I think. Push yourself.
Push yourself.
So buy the book, guys. We'll link it up. We'll link it up and say yes a bit more.
A bit more of that, indeed.
So we've come to the end. Thank you very much for coming on the show. For those that want to reach out to you, to Mailchimp, what's the best way to do that?
Find me on LinkedIn. I've got a fairly uncommon last name, so it should be fairly easy. Emilia Swiecicka. And thank you so much for having me. This is really fun.
No problem at all. We'll link up all the contacts in the show notes. And thanks for coming on the show. See you soon. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast, so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.